This is Saving Runt, Book 7 in the Cosmos's Gateway series by S.E. Smith, narrated by Samantha Cook. Prologue. 2 years ago, Washington, D.C. area near the old Navy Yard. Amelia Runt Thomas felt her black knit cap snag on a jagged piece of wire as she slipped through the opening someone had cut in the tall chain-link fence. She paused on the other side and pulled her cap back down over her ears, then tucked her gloved hands into her pockets in an effort to keep them warm. A black backpack with all her worldly possessions was strapped firmly to her back. She took a moment to appreciate the dark silhouette of the buildings against the backdrop of the Capitol and its famous river. These abandoned warehouses along the Potomac River had been her home on and off for the last few months. It seemed a safe enough spot to stay for long periods of time, but eventually she always left for a while. The few people that she'd talked to on the streets had warned her that it was unwise to remain in one place for too long, and she'd taken that lesson to heart. It was dangerous to get too comfortable. She wasn't the only one who lived in the forgotten part of the Capitol. Sections of the former Navy Yard were being revitalized, but this one still remained on the city's what to do with it list. Personally, Runt didn't mind if it stayed on the list for a bit longer. A lot of the perpetually homeless stayed in the buildings on occasion, especially during the winter. They each had claimed their own sections, at least until someone bigger and meaner moved in. Overall, most of them were pretty harmless and preferred to live their lives with only the occasional interaction with the rest of the world. She liked the fact that they were all different. Some lived on the streets because they couldn't stand being confined in small places. Others were there because they were too broke to afford a place to live. Those reasons came from the few who had volunteered why they didn't have anywhere else to go. She never asked because it was none of her business. Besides, if she started asking, someone might decide to question her, and she wouldn't answer. At 16, she'd been on the streets for almost 2 years. It didn't bother her like most people would think it should. She was her own boss, and she liked it that way. She reached up and adjusted the strap on her shoulder while she waited for a car to drive past her. She remained still so that she wouldn't be noticeable. Her hand tightened on the strap when the car slowed. She breathed a sigh of relief when it turned and headed away from her. Life could be hard on the streets, but only if you needed a lot to live on. She didn't. Need material stuff, that is. Well, except for my laptop. I can't live without that, she thought with wry amusement. She'd started life poor, so she had never known what it was like to have a lot of stuff anyway. Thanks to her father, even that life had been taken away from her. Money and greed created monsters, and she had met her fair share of them at an early age. She didn't like to think about how easy it was to lose everything she cared about because of someone else. She hated to brood about the things she couldn't change, so she tried not to. It was a waste of time and energy. Besides, she was doing just fine on her own. Scanning the area one more time to make sure she was alone, Runt began walking at an unhurried pace until she was engulfed in the shadows cast by the buildings. She had learned a lot in the years since her father was murdered. She had no regrets about that either. Sometimes she wondered if the counselors had been right, that there was something wrong with her. Asses, she thought dispassionately. The only thing wrong with her was that she was smart. Too smart for her father, and too dangerous for her mother. One school psychologist suggested that she was a savant, one of those strange and unusual people who had an ability that was out of this world. All her father saw in her was a way to make money, and he didn't care how he did it. Her mother had been different. Her mom understood and accepted her for who she was. A little girl who could see zeros and ones and understand what they were saying.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?